So now we have Marriott, Holiday Inn, Sheraton hotels, including some here in Chicago, Westin, Renaissance, and Radisson. Thousands of accounts have been compromised. This malicious software, this malware, point-of-sale systems, memory parsing is the sort of category of criminal behavior this is. I just wonder, is there more crime nowadays, more malicious software nowadays, or has our detection become more comprehensive? Let's go to our expert regarding all things cybersecurity, Fred Cate, who is the director at the Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research at Indiana University and their School of Law, and he joins us here on our Turnkey.pro answer line, which I assume is still secure. Amy, did you check it this morning?
Yeah, it's good.
Good. Hi, Fred. How are you?
I'm just great. How are you?
We're doing very well. Do you think with this this food and beverage company that worked as a subcontractor for all the above-named hotels, White Lodging Services Corp., do you think this was kind of a preemptive PR disclosure before this thing got a hand?
No, I don't. As a matter of fact, they were sort of outed by Brian Krebs, who is a security researcher and somebody who runs a blog, Krebs on Security, and he reported on Friday about this breach before the company had said a word publicly.
Do you think the company even knew?
Well, that's a good question, and I don't know. They should have known, and we've been warned now by the FBI after Target that same type of attack had been used on many other sites, and we're only going to be seeing the results of that as companies discover it. But it's early days yet, and we still have to know a lot more about this particular breach.
So tell me more about this breach, how it happened, who was affected.
Well, so the company, provides gift shops and restaurants and things like that in hotels. Mm-hmm. And so what we've seen is a pattern of fraudulent credit card use starting about March of last year, going through mid-December, the same time the Target breach ended of last year. We think it's the same type of attack, which is, as you referred to earlier, a memory parsing attack, meaning even though the system may be secure, we don't really know a lot right now about White Lodging system, but at some point the information on the credit card exists in the memory of the computer, the actual thinking memory, the RAM, in plain text, and that's what this malware does. Is it sucks it out of that part of the memory before it gets encrypted or before it's secured. And we're really just waiting to see. The company hasn't said a word about the size of the attack, the number of cards affected. Marriott has acknowledged, they're one of the companies for which White Lodging provides services. Marriott's acknowledged it can see the fraud pattern. And so it could be we've got more disclosures coming. In fact, I think it's almost certain we do.
Now, this week, the Senate Judiciary Committee has had the CEO of Target, Neiman Marcus, and they've been asking them questions, so that this doesn't happen again. How could we prevent this from happening again? There was talk of putting a chip inside a credit card. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. So all of Europe now for more than a decade has used this chip and PIN system for credit cards. So instead of signing, which is a pretty bad system for any form of security because your signature doesn't look anything like it, from day to day, and besides, nobody verifies it anyway, you have a 4-digit PIN number. And so when your card is inserted, it's got a chip. That chip tells the company what that PIN number should be. It tells them the algorithm for it. You then enter the PIN number on a little keypad, and if they match, then they take that as an authorized transaction. The other thing the chip does is it helps validate the whole transaction, and so it makes it much harder to make a fraudulent credit card, because anyone can make a piece of plastic, but making those chips is much more difficult and requires really quite secret information.
Why not eliminate the card entirely and just chip our own fingers up?
Well, I hear there are folks at Fort Meade, Maryland, who would love that idea, but at least for the moment, Americans are pretty resistant to, we'll chip our pets, but we don't want to chip ourselves.
Well, the thing we've talked about this, and it bears repeating this morning, if you suspect that you have trouble, you should check on a daily basis your credit card statements. It's all online. And number two, I do regularly, at least with one of my cards. And the second thing is I change my numbers every quarter.
Right. It's an interesting fight. The fight going on in Washington right now, and in fact there are 4 hearings this week on identity theft, credit card fraud, and all prompted by the Target breach. And one thing that's emerging is a big fight between sort of the retailers, the people who accept the cards, and the banks, the people who process and issue the cards. And the retailers are saying to the banks, you need to do a better job. We need stronger cards. We need chip and PIN. The banks are saying to the retailers, like, you need better systems in your stores. And it was interesting when Target's chief security officer testified, he said, we need both. But what this debate obscures is the point you were making, and that is there's still a lot of things consumers can do to at least make sure that we detect fraud early and therefore reduce the impact on us. The faster you detect it, you can stop it from happening, and you can start that recovery process.
Our expert on cybersecurity is Fred Cate, Director for the Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research at Indiana University's School of Law.
And I wanted to go back to that Senate Judiciary Committee hearing yesterday. They were coming under fire, both Target and Neiman Marcus, for not alerting customers soon enough that their credit cards have been breached.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, and the problem is, you understand. You don't really want to alert people at all because you don't want to, if you will, tarnish your brand. But you also don't want to alert while the FBI is still investigating because you don't want to alert the people who were exploiting the malware. You want them to keep on exploiting it so the FBI can find them and ultimately, hopefully, arrest them. But I think there's no question that one thing we're headed for now is a federal breach notification law. We have 46 states, 47 states, if you include the District of Columbia, that have these breach notification laws, but they're all different. They work different ways. Some have law enforcement exemptions, some don't. And that if Congress would pass a uniform federal notification law, then the public would have confidence it's going to be notified as promptly as conceivably possible.
Law enforcement exemptions, explain that.
Well, law enforcement don't like the information made public. They much prefer to follow the fraud, and therefore to get the longest delay possible.
Is Target and Neiman Marcus, are they paying the victims back? Are they putting the money back into their bank accounts?
Well, they have said they're going to make victims whole. They are paying for credit monitoring, and White Lodging, by the way, has said they will do the same thing. The banks, you don't lose money off your credit card or your debit card because Congress has already provided that insurance. So the credit card company, and they'll ultimately go against Target and Neiman Marcus to get that money. In terms of money being deducted from a bank account, again, if it's done through a debit card, already covered by federal law. So there'll be some annoyance for consumers here. It may take some time.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But it's at least not going to be a major out-of-pocket loss for consumers.
But it costs us all money in the long run because the companies that are going to be affected after the credit card companies come after them, they have to pass on the cost to us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we will all pay for it.
Yeah, by the way, Fred, White Lodging, you touched on this. They manage 167 hotels, and they're based out of Maryville, Indiana, the White Lodging Company, by the way. And they are going to offer up a year of identity theft protection at their cost for anybody who's been affected. So thanks, Fred. Great analysis. Always great information from you, sir.
My pleasure.
Take care. We'll have you back soon, I imagine. Fred Cate on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Follow John and